Well, welcome back everyone to our author interviews with Meet the Author. Today I have Jayme Hunt here, and I'm so excited to talk about not only your recently published book, but your new and upcoming book that's coming out this month. So first off, we'll just kind of start with an easy kind of icebreaker question for you. Okay, would you consider yourself more of an introvert or an extrovert?
Ooh, I would say I'm actually more of an extrovert, but there is a very specific time frame to it. I love being around people, but once I hit like a certain point, I'm done. And then I need to, hide with my books for a little bit to rejuvenate. So, yeah.
Totally understand that. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. And I want to just kind of start off with tell us a little bit about yourself. If people aren't familiar with you as an author, kind of what your starting process with writing these books and kind of just who you are in general.
Yeah, great question. So I'm Jayme Hunt and I'm 27 years old. I live in Colorado. And I just recently got back into reading and writing. So when I went on my honeymoon, I actually picked up a book again for the first time about a little over a year ago, and I just didn't stop. I forgot how much I loved it, and now I came back and I was like, I love reading, and I forgot how much I loved writing. So then I just started writing again, and here we are with my first book out and second on the way.
And your first book, I have it right here, is Marked by Fate, and it's obviously stunning. Tell readers a little bit kind of what they can expect when they pick up this book for the very first time.
Yeah, so it is a fantasy romance. It's, I'd say, new adult to adult fantasy romance. There's a little bit of spice in it, and it follows the journey of Kate as she discovers that her bloodline is not a mortal human, but rather a fae bloodline. And then when she gets to the fairy realm, she realizes that her bloodline specifically is being hunted, and she's the only one who can stop the villain that is hunting down her bloodline.
Awesome. And yeah, I've read the book. It was incredible. And you were lucky. I was lucky enough that you sent me the arc of your next book that's coming out. So kind of tease a little bit without giving anything away of what people can expect. Marked by Gods that comes out on the 16th of this month.
Yeah. So for anybody that read Marked by Fate, you will know, and this is a bit of a spoiler, but it ends on a gnarly cliffhanger.
The worst.
So,
the worst.
and so the second one picks up right where that leaves off. And so Kate and all of her friends and family in this fairy realm, they have to finish the quest that they started in the first book, to locate the weapon that will help Kate defeat the villain in the first book. And it's got a lot more spice and it's got a lot more trauma. So just be prepared. It is one of those books that might make you cry. So if you're not a fan of that, I would steer clear, but it is a lot of fun, and it does have a resolution to the questions that you have from the first book.
And how was it for you going into writing, kind of the difference between writing your first book and writing your second book? Was it a little bit easier this time around, or kind of what was that process like for you going into your second book?
Absolutely. It was a lot easier. I feel like the first book, I was having fun with it, but I had a lot of questions I was stumbling through as a first time author. And then I found my voice a little bit more in the second book, and I felt more confident taking those leaps and writing different scenes, some spicier scenes. I got, a good response to the first book, and I was like, okay, I can keep doing this. People like it. So I think, especially for people like you who've read it and read the raw files, you can definitely feel the difference in it from the first to the second in that.
Yeah, no, it's incredible, and I really liked it too. And then I even told you, I was like, okay, there's a few characters I want a little bit more in the third book. I was like, I need them to make a comeback.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love that. I love that now I can, I've got people that are reading and giving feedback, and I can start to incorporate that. So I love getting that kind of feedback. Obviously, still writing what I had in my mind long term with those like Easter eggs that you can find from book 1 and 2, but I'm like, oh, people are enjoying that. So maybe they'll have to get a little bit more book time, so to say.
That's awesome. So, with this being kind of like your first series and everything, do you have characters or maybe a character so far that is your favorite? That I know it's like asking authors this, it's like asking them to pick their favorite children, but maybe do you have one that was maybe the most fun to write or just closest to you?
I love Castile. I love Cass. He's just unabashedly himself, and I feel like I can't speak for anybody else, but you kind of incorporate things you wish you could do or could be, and that's kind of how I feel with him. Like he does not care what other people think. He will do what he wants and say what he wants, and I'm just like, if that could be me, I'm aspiring to be him. He's my role model.
That's incredible. So, what is your typical book writing process like when you go kind of start plotting your book and all of that? Are you more of a write from home kind of person, or do you like to get out and kind of go other places when you start to write a book?
I'm definitely I work from home with my main job. So I'm home with I'm lucky to have a very nice setup. So I like to write from home for the most part. And I have a little treadmill underneath my desk, and that really gets my creative juices flowing. It helps me move while I write, which is really fun. Um, and then yeah, I know there's a difference between pansters and plotters. I'm definitely more of a panster, or at least I was for the first book, and the second book a little bit. It just kind of came to me as I went. But now with this third book, I'm going to have to plot a little bit more because now I've got, so many different things moving and I need to keep track of that. But yeah, it all happens from this little nook that I'm sitting in right now.
So, if people maybe don't understand the lingo, kind of explain what the difference is between what you said, a pantster and a plotter, I think is what you just said. Just kind of
Yeah.
explain the difference between the two so people maybe who aren't familiar with that are like, oh, okay, I know what she's talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. So a panster, I'd say, is considered more, you write as you go and you don't have an outline. It's just what comes to you in the moment as you're writing. You don't have like a long-term strategy. You maybe have like one or two scenes that you're like, oh, these are going to happen, but it just happens organically. And then plotters, they'll write it all out. They'll have an outline and then they'll flesh out, all of those little outline points as they go. So mad respect to the plotters out there, but that it's not really me.
Hey, everyone has their own writing process. Doesn't make one right or wrong for that.
Mhm.
So I had a different question for you because again, I'll show this book again because it is stunning. The cover of this specifically. How did you go about kind of picking and choosing the covers for your books? What was that process like for you? Did you have certain elements that you were like, I have to have that included, or just kind of explain when you decided to, you wrote your book and then you wanted it to obviously be beautiful. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, great question. So I did a lot of research on artists that I wanted to work with, narrowed it down to what I really liked in their designs. And I mean, honestly, you could kill several hours just looking at beautiful covers from artists. It was definitely a bit of a rabbit hole for me, but I eventually decided on Etheric Tales, and they have a Facebook group. You can go look at all of the covers that they make. They have a team of artists that are wonderful to work with. And so I reached out to them and I said, "Hey, I've got a couple of ideas, but honestly, I had no real image of what it would be." Again, we come back to that. I kind of fly by the seat of my pants. But I went in and I said, "Here's what the book is about. Here's some symbols that you could use." I knew I didn't want to use people on the cover, which is where it can sometimes get a little misconstrued, I feel like. But I like allowing readers to envision the characters as they want. I don't want them to have a preconceived notion from the cover. So
Mhm.
that was my intent with putting the animals on the cover. And then I said, there's flames and a horse and a wolf and and it's Celtic. So if you could do the Celtic shield knot, that would be amazing. And I just threw all this at my artist, and they came back with a stunning cover for me. So that was really exciting to see. And yeah, and they have followed it into Marked by Gods. I think you've seen the cover for that. I love it. It's darker. It follows the theme where it does get a little, more adult and darker there. So I really appreciate that.
No, the cover is also really pretty for that. I don't have a physical copy of that book, but it's absolutely
I don't
stunning.
either.
It's gorgeous, and I really enjoyed reading that book too. So going kind of more back into your books, if you could describe both of your books now that you've written them, I know this is a little bit of a hard question, but if you could describe each book in one word, what would be the word that you would pick to describe each book?
Oh man. So I know for the second book, I'd probably just say intense.
I feel like that's very fair.
Yes, the second book I'd say intense. Um, lighthearted wouldn't necessarily be the first book, but maybe, yeah, I'll just go with lighthearted. There's humor, there's, really fun bonds between the friends. So I'll go from lighthearted to intense. Definitely, a bit of an oxymoron there, but
That was one of the things that I really enjoyed about your first book, is that, you are building this world for readers and everything, and they're having to learn all this stuff. Because, I've never read anything with Celtic lore in it. So your book was like kind of my introduction to that, which I am like big on mythology. So it was so fun for me to I was like looking things up on the side and like how to pronounce this and how to do stuff like that. And my boyfriend was always like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I have to know more." Like I just need to know all of these things. So how was that for you, like deciding that you wanted to really put that into your books and like really kind of add that mythology to your world that you were creating?
yeah. Well, first off, I appreciate that. I love that that's the way that you went about that because I do that exact same thing when I read books too. I need to make it a whole immersive experience for myself. So I love that. And the reason that I went with that is because when I first started thinking about writing a book, everyone says, write what you know, write what you love. I didn't want to. I did end up following, a little bit more of that trend of people are liking the fantasy and romance right now. But I really did want to stick to things that I knew and enjoyed. And I grew up in South Dakota, so I grew up doing rodeo, and horses were a big thing for me. So I was like, I want to write something with horses. And then magic, and so I just went into a deep rabbit hole of, okay, what are some myths around, powerful mythological horses? And that's how I came up with Gray. That's how I came up with that as the first little piece of the story. And then it was the Celtic myth around that. And I just went larger and larger. And then I found, the talismans and everything with that. And so I just kept taking little inspirational pieces from that and then weaving it into the tale, and it got bigger and bigger, and lo and behold, here we go.
That's awesome. Like I said, it was incredible. And not only, adding all of that elements to it, but I thought it was really awesome how you kind of, you're walking someone through a new world. So this is a world that's obviously created in your head, something that you're exploring for readers to see. And I think that, it was so good about that. But like you said with the first book, it was so lighthearted that all these new characters that are coming to life. One of my favorite things about the book was that they were so like personable, that each character was like, I could just feel them and like you understood them. So how was that like for you? Did you take any inspiration maybe from like friends or family or things like that to your characters? Or did you just kind of decide you were just going to start scratch and just kind of create things from your own head?
A little bit of both, I would say. I love my favorite people that I personally gravitate towards are people that are just instantly open and ready to welcome you with open arms. They always have a funny joke or something in the back pocket, and so I really took inspiration from who are my favorite people in the world, and those are some of my favorite childhood friends and things like that. So I'd say like Daria and Cass, like those people, those are my favorites. And then Ren, a little bit of inspiration from, I have a very extroverted personality, and sometimes I say inappropriate things, and then I have friends that are like a little bit more innocent than me, and so that's where Ren comes in, where it's like, oh, I kind of feel like I'm corrupting you a little bit because you're so sweet. So it does come a little bit from people in my life that I hold very dear, mostly friends, but also family too.
That's awesome. And so for you, kind of maybe a little bit not as much about the book for a second. Just kind of tell us about you as a person. You said you grew up in the Dakotas, you said?
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay, so
South
then now you
Dakota.
live in Colorado. So kind of how has that changed for you and just maybe certain stuff about your life that readers maybe wouldn't know about you that you want to share?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I grew up in South Dakota. Did rodeo, had a horse, have lots of horse friends, so
What
it's
was your
always
horse's
fun.
name?
My horse's name was George. I,
Is there
I
any
love a
story
human
there?
name. Yeah, and then my one of my best friends, she had horses named Chester and Coyote, and that's where those names came from in my book.
Okay.
Uh, and then I moved to Colorado for college, and I was originally going to study veterinary science and stopped the first day. I switched my major. And then I went into marketing, and I have been in the field of marketing since. And so that's my normal 9 to 5 job. And other than that, a lot of Colorado things, hiking, camping, those are the things I enjoy. And I have 2 dogs, which I'm sure you've probably seen cameos on my social media from the dogs. And what else? I play ice hockey actually on the side. So I am getting into the hockey romance world, and it's really fun for me as somebody who knows hockey men. I'm like, wow, I wish they were like this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for you, let's see, trying to think about how to word this question. So for the kind of like, because your book's set part of it's Colorado. So did you kind of take some of that from your life now, or was it because like the ranch and everything, is that kind of a little bit from your life in South Dakota before you moved to Colorado, or is that kind of how it is now? Was that the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, yeah. So I based it in Colorado because again, yeah, that is what I know. And then I did kind of plop, a typical South Dakota, little barn home there. So it's a nice mixture. That's a great. I never thought about that. So that's great that you bring that up. That's a good mixture of my two worlds there.
That's awesome. So you said that you have, your marketing job as your main job. Kind of
Mhm.
explain how with, writing is not a full-time job for you. How does that go to have to kind of do two different things at once? Because, writing takes a lot of time and energy and editing and all of that process that you have to go through. How do you find the time to be able to, work a full-time job, but then also be able to live your passion and be able to write like you do?
Yeah. So it is a blessing to be able to work from home with my 9 to 5. So, over lunch or before I even start my normal job in the morning, I'll have a coffee and maybe write or edit while I'm prepping for my normal job. And then in between, I'll just, switch from my work to my personal laptop and and I'll get in a few words here and there. And then a lot of it comes down to, just prioritizing. Everybody has their passion and their hobby. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's not what we do all day, every day with our main job. So it's making the time after dinner. I'll be reading or writing or editing while my husband's watching TV. And then every now and then, okay, probably more than every now and then, I am up till like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., just, gazing at my computer and just trying to knock out one more chapter, and then it ends up being 5 chapters. And I look up and it's like, oh, I should probably go to bed now. But yeah, it's just finding the time for something that you're passionate about. For some, it's reading, which also is me, but on some people, it's getting up early to mountain bike, and it's just your passion.
So that was going to be another question of mine. So when you're not working your normal job or when you're not writing, what is one of your favorite things to do? If you're just like stepping back from both of those things, what is going to be what you're normally going and doing?
It's definitely reading. I try to read as much as I can. I've got probably 90 some books on my TBR right now. And then I'd say it's hockey. I'm in a pickup league right now. So I'll go play hockey or I'll be walking the dogs, something like that. Yeah.
How did you get into hockey? I'm fascinated by this ice hockey. I just have to know more. How did you just decide? Did you, used to do that or you just decided, you know what, I want to give this a go? Kind of what was the process there?
Yeah, my brother played hockey and I really liked it. I tried figure skating and I don't remember much of it, but my mother told me I got really bored. And I couldn't stay in line and I'd be skating around and get in trouble. So she moved me over to ice hockey and then I loved it. And so I played it all through high school and college. So now I'm just in a pickup league for, people who have passed their prime.
That's awesome. That was, I guess, for me, that was like volleyball. So that was my like go-to sport. Being from Texas, it's not hockey. I wish I would. I'm terrible at like skating in general. Anytime it's like the winter time and people are like, "Let's go ice skating," I'm like, "Oh no, am I gonna break my ankle today?" Like
So do you still play volleyball then?
every now and then when I can, occasionally do it. I have a summer league that I actually just signed up for that's going to be here in Tulsa. So it's like just very relaxed. It's an adult league, you just get to kind of
Yeah.
mess around and play beach volleyball at night. But I still love doing stuff like that because it was such a big
Mhm.
part of my life. And I'm sure that's how it feels like for you, getting to do ice
Exactly.
hockey.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
So, what is one thing, maybe besides the ice hockey and stuff, that you would say someone doesn't know about you, or one fun fact about you that maybe you'd be willing to share?
Yeah. So one fun fact is if you follow me on Twitter, I posted a bunch of pictures. To back up, I'm on a book buying ban right now because I can't control myself. But I allowed myself one book because I lived in Germany for a while and I just went back for my class's 10-year reunion. And so I had to go get a book in German from a German author. And so that would be, I suppose, my fun fact is that I'm bilingual and I speak German, and I used to live there for a little while.
Okay, we have to talk more about this now because you just led me down a whole nother rabbit hole. So, how long did you live in Germany?
So I lived there for a year in high school. I got a scholarship to do like an exchange year, and so yeah, I lived there my junior year of high school, and then I came back for a summer in college as well.
Okay, what's one of your favorite things about Germany? Like when you got to live over there and that, what is one thing that's very different from the US that's kind of one of your favorite things about being there?
I'd say the transportation. It's so easy to get from one place to another, and the whole country is about this. I think it's the size of Montana, so you can get from like one end to the other in 4 or 5 hours with the train. Granted, the trains are always late, but at least they're there, and you can use them. And that's just something that I wish that we could have better infrastructure for here because it'd be so fun, to be able to hop on a train from Colorado to Oklahoma and be able to just read the whole time and not focus on driving.
That would be so nice. I know. I think of like even places like New York and everyone's like goes on the subway and
Mhm.
stuff like that. I'm like, man, I wish, other cities had things like that. That would be so nice.
Yeah,
Um, I need to
exactly.
visit New York. It's a bucket list. We'll go with that. Do you have a bucket list, maybe place or a few bucket list items that you're like, all right, I really want to get these things done, in the next 10 years or, your life?
Yeah, a lot of travel, definitely a lot of travel. I didn't know how to play poker, so that was one I actually just crossed off the bucket list like this past month. I know I'm this old and I haven't been able to play poker yet, but
I'm real good at
yeah.
Texas Hold'em. That's an unfortunate thing of growing up, my childhood. My dad was a big time, just being in that world. But I don't know if have you Buffalo Wild Wings? Do you know what that
Oh
is?
yeah.
That
Oh yeah.
restaurant? So when I was a kid, my parents were divorced, but my dad would pick my brother and I up sometimes from school. And while he was waiting for my mom, to be done, he'd take us to Buffalo Wild Wings and he'd get us like a little snack of like the BOGO wings or whatever. And then we'd play on those little devices that was Texas Hold'em. So I got real good at Texas Hold'em real fast. And I was like 7, 8 years old, like swindling all the people at the Buffalo Wild Wings restaurant.
Oh my gosh. So do you still swindle people? You go in and say, "Oh, this is the first time I'm playing this," and
I don't do it as much anymore. Now that it's like, you're older, and if you ever want to really do something like that, you got to go to like a casino or something, and then I'm going to fall down the rabbit hole of other things that I just like, maybe now and then I should go back to Buffalo Wild Wings and just, sit in the corner and see if I can get some fake money, swindle some people out of their fake money.
I support that.
So you've said traveling is one of your, big thing bucket list items. So what is the prettiest place that you've ever been to so far?
Oh my gosh, that's a loaded question because there's so many places that are beautiful in different ways. I guess if you're looking for nature, I'd say like the Cliffs of Moher in Ireland. Those were gorgeous. But we just got back from Neuschwanstein, which is the Disney castle in Germany, and that is gorgeous. So it's King Ludwig's castle, but Disney based it off of that castle. So if you look it up, it looks exactly like the Disney castle, and that's in like southern Bavaria, Germany, and just that whole countryside is gorgeous.
That sounds incredible. I'm going to have to look this up as soon as we're done with this. I'm going to have to like go type it in my thing and look that up because it sounds awesome. Well, we're wrapping kind of this up a little bit more. So I want to switch back a little bit more to your newest book. So again, Marked by Fate is already out for anyone who wants to read it. They can read it. I believe it's on Kindle Unlimited, right?
Yeah.
So people can read it on Kindle Unlimited, or they can also get a physical copy of it. And then Marked by Gods will be coming out this month on June 16th. Is there anything you would want to say, to readers before the book comes out? Kind of, I know we've explained it a little bit, but what would you like to say just leading up to this book for readers?
I would say, if you're a fan of, found family, a little bit of humor, sword fighting, magic, fairy realms, all of the good stuff that is in a lot of fantasy romances, and then give it a spin of Celtic lore. This would definitely be the series for you. As we already have talked about, the first one's very lighthearted and fun. You get to know the world, you get to know the friends and the family in it. And then the second one, more action, more spice, more heartbreak. So as long as that's a journey that you're willing to take, I definitely would recommend it. And I would say they're pretty fast paced. So you're not taking a huge chunk of your life out to commit to these books. They're pretty quick reads. And I just hope you enjoy them. And yeah, I'm always open to any feedback or recommendations. The third book, I'm trying to get it out by the end of 2023, but it's still in writing. So if you finish the first two and you're like, hey, I want to see more of these characters, or hey, are you thinking about doing this? You probably will catch me in the middle of writing it. So I'm always open for ideas and feedback. I love to hear from you all.
That's exciting. So you heard it here first. If there's someone that you really want to see, you gotta talk to her and she'll maybe sneak it in. Maybe I can convince you to write like a really small side character named Michaela or something in your next book. I could be a pet. I could be something like really small, like there I'm gone.
Absolutely. I love that idea.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to come on today. I'm so thankful that you were able to do this. And yeah, for readers, again, you can catch Marked by Fate. It is already out now, so you can read it on Kindle Unlimited or paperback. And then Marked by Gods will be coming out June 16th. And that will also be on Kindle Unlimited, and they can buy physical copies of that book as well, correct? So people should definitely check that out. And then hopefully we'll get our third book by the end of this year. But if not, we can be patient. Okay, we've been waiting for SJM books for like ever now. So it's We can be patient as readers. Well, thank you so much again for coming on today, and I cannot wait to share this with everybody. And yeah, I just happy reading to everyone, and I'm so thankful that you were able to come on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, you can find me at all of my handles are at author Jayme Hunt, or my gosh, is it Jayme Hunt author? Or is it author Jayme Hunt? One of the two.
One of the two. People can find you there.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate you coming on today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.